One of the later upgrade packages for the F-15C air superiority fighter was based around the APG-63V3 active electronically scanned array radar set. This new radar used an antenna array based on the APG-79 used in the FA-18E Super Hornet, but with most of the rest of the original APG-63V1 components still retained and the software updated. The idea was sort of a midlife extension for the F-15C to keep it in service at least until 2030. The new upgraded jets, nicknamed the Golden Eagles, also gained compatibility with the latest models of the AIM-120 AMRAAM and AIM-9 Sidewinder, including the AIM-9X. Originally, it was planned to upgrade more than 170 F-15s of the active duty Air Force and Air National Guard to this new Golden Eagle standard, but there have been political battles over funding priorities, and so far less than half of that have actually received the upgrades. It should be noted for clarity that the nickname Golden Eagle has also been applied to a proposed new F-15 based on the F-15SE proposal under the project name F-15 2040C. This 2040C upgrade also would receive the APG-63V3 radar, a significantly increased quantity of carried weapons, and a fairly comprehensive electronic warfare suite. But as of making this review, the 2040C program has not been approved or funded. Now, I'm fairly confident that the jet we got in the game is supposed to be the first Golden Eagle upgrade I mentioned, but it's Gaijin, so who the hell knows? Maybe it was supposed to be the 2040C and they just screwed it up. Regardless, what we get in the game is the F-15C Golden Eagle. This is a jet fighter in rank 8 of the American tech tree at battle rating 14.3 for air and 13.0 for ground. This jet, unsurprisingly, gets a full ballistics computer and an advanced radar warning receiver that detects E through J bands with all the expected top-tier features. It also has a helmet-mounted sight and a fairly significant amount of countermeasures, which I discuss later. Its radar is the AN-APG-63V3, an I-band electronically scanned array radar set with all of the expected top-tier features, including a ground MTI mode. Notably, it has 51 threat types in its NCTR listing, which is a pretty significant number as of making this review. It gets 8 data link channels, which is what you'd probably expect. For loadouts, this jet gets a huge selection of missiles, drop tanks, conformal fuel tanks, and air-to-ground ordnance spread across wing and fuselage hardpoints. It's worth noting that the Snail has said they might increase this jet's weapon load based on player statistics over the next few months. So if you're watching this review out in the future, it's possible that this thing has more AMRAAMs now. Notably, it gets the BOL rails, which increases its total countermeasure load to almost 900 charges. Your dogfighting missile is going to be 2 versions of the AIM-9M Sidewinder, the L and the M. You've seen both of these by now while going up the tech tree, and if you want to take some heat seekers, the 9 mic is still an effective weapon up at the top tier as of the end of 2025. For radar missiles, you get the AIM-7M semi-active radar missile, along with the AIM-120A and C5 active radar missiles. Really, your choice is going to be between the A and the C5 AMRAAMs. The main difference is that the C5 doesn't use a sustainer, but its main booster burns longer and it has a slightly larger warhead. It's also slightly faster with longer range, on paper anyway, but some people prefer the A's flight model, though I do personally prefer the C5. For air-to-ground weapons, there are too many to go through them all, but there are a couple of standouts. The GBU-8 TV-guided bomb is generally my favorite American weapon for close air support. It's got an enormous warhead and 90 seconds of guidance time, along with fairly accurate tracking. You can also take some pretty good JDAMs, including the GBU-64 glide bombs. Again, huge warheads, but with the limitation that they can't track moving targets, and the 64s take a while to impact from longer ranges. The flight performance of the Golden Eagle is identical to the F-15C MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree. Same engines, basically the same weight depending on fuel load and weapons, same top speed, so on and so on. Generally speaking, the Golden Eagle still flies great. Sure, it's not the best in the game, but its flight performance is still good. The acceleration and rate of climb are decent enough that I never felt like they were holding me back, and its general level of agility is a little weaker than stuff like the Rafale and J-10, but it's not awful, and it can still be competitive if you've got good energy management. Speaking of which, for the best turn performance, you want to try and stay between 7 and 800 kilometers an hour, and it gets the Cobra button if you get desperate. It's also worth a reminder that, like other F-15s, this is a fairly heavy jet, and all of its performance figures will change significantly based on your fuel and weapon load. When you fly this thing out full of gas and weapons, it's gonna fly totally different than towards the end of a match after you've burnt off all of your gas and most of your missiles. Remember, basically identical to the F-15C MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree. Taking the Golden Eagle out in air battles is pretty much the same deal as the MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree, but with some upgrades. The radar set, and especially its insane load of countermeasures, both provide a little more reliability for the jet's offensive and defensive performance. Some players swear by taking the F-15 up to space and throwing AMRAAMs from higher altitude, and with the upgraded radar set, that tactic certainly has some merit, so if that's your thing, the Golden Eagle will probably be just fine. Now, I still personally prefer to use the F-15s for wide, low-altitude flanking attacks, trying to pick people off one at a time and avoid larger dogpiles and furballs, since this jet still has a pretty hard time competing against stuff like Eurofighters, J-10s, and Rafales in an up-close dogfight. Really, even an upgraded flanker loaded up with R-73s can still be incredibly dangerous up close. This contrasts to the F-15 with its AMRAAMs that tend to be more effective between 5 and 10 kilometers, at least in my own personal experience. But I do still occasionally manage to land a long-range yeet shot or two. I also still sometimes try to use my old double tap tactic with the AMRAAMs, where I throw one at kind of a medium range to force the opponent into a defensive maneuver, not really expecting the first shot to hit. Then, a few seconds later, once we've closed the distance a bit, fire a second shot that hopefully does connect if they turn back in on you thinking that they've evaded the first shot. In terms of ground attack, I'm gonna suggest not bothering in air battles, but the Golden Eagle does have capable weapons for close air support. The GBU-8s are still my preferred option, even if you only get a couple of them. Now, it doesn't get quite the selection or quantity as the F-15E does, but if you focused this line of the tech tree, you can still use this out over a ground battle, the same as the MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree. Visually, okay, the F-15 is a great looking jet, but the Golden Eagle has a problem with a floating empty weapon pylon on the left side of the plane. If you don't take the conformal fuel tanks, you get an empty hardpoint just floating in the air detached from the jet. Come on, Snail, this should have been fixed on the dev server. Landing is the same as other F-15s. You can put the gear out at about 700 kilometers an hour and the landing flaps at about 475. Still no drag shoe and otherwise identical landing performance to the MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree. The cockpit is actually a little different. You get a useful heads-up display projected onto the helmet-mounted display, the visibility is great, but the layout of the MFDs is different, and you get a larger display that can show and focus your sensor point of interest. Overall, a good cockpit. To close out on the F-15C Golden Eagle. This jet has an electronically scanned array radar set, an insane supply of countermeasures, and fairly effective weapons. However, it's behind the meta with its dogfight performance. Fuel management is incredibly important, and as of making this review, it's got some visual errors on the 3D model. The final verdict on the F-15C Golden Eagle is that, honestly, this jet feels like it's an unfinished marginal upgrade over the MSIP-2 before it in the tech tree. With my playstyle, the insane countermeasure load was the only thing that really made much of a difference, and I just can't unsee that floating missile pylon. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, go click on this next one. Go on, click that thing.